Welcome, everyone, to the C-Suite Sales and Marketing Perspectives podcast. I'm Steve McDonald, your host, and today we not only have a fantastic conversation, but a wonderful guest, Justin Steinman. Now, Justin, you're currently the CMO at ModMed, and I'm going to allow you to explain a little bit more about that and what you do with medical practices and their revenue cycles. But you're a four-time B2B CMO. And you've worked inside of, private and public companies. You've taken public or companies public. You've done a lot. And what we're going to be talking about today is all of that background, how you connect the revenue logic of growing a company to customer obsession and how important that is. But before we get started here, I wanted to say one thing, just personally, I just learned this. I thought it was fantastic. You are actually a two-time world champion, Little League world champion. Congratulations on that. That's fantastic.
Well, thank you. But to keep it real, it's Little League world champion in the town of Natick, Massachusetts. And while our small town is highly competitive, I'm sure there are Little League world champions in almost every town across America. So if you want to listen to this podcast, I feel you. Congratulations, and I do have my trophy sitting behind the monitor right here.
All right. Well, you showed you have humility too. All right. That's great. If you wouldn't mind, give us a little bit more of a background on your career and how you got to where you are today.
Sure. So today I am the Chief Marketing Officer at ModMed. We are the industry leader. We're bringing something called the AI-powered practice into specialty medicine. We're the market leader in providing specialty-specific EHR, practice management, revenue cycle management, and analytics solutions, as well as products for patient engagement, payment processing, and marketing to specialty medical doctors. We are in 11 specialties today, so you can think of dermatology, orthopedics, ophthalmology, pain, urology, OBGYN, and the list goes on. And in case you're not in healthcare IT, and I suspect the large majority of your audience isn't, what that really means is we're providing electronic medical records, which you as a patient are very familiar with, everybody here, scheduling, billing, and collection software, as well as tools for you, a patient, to interact with your doctor, whether you want to text to schedule an appointment or, communicate online and ask a question. And we are wholly focused really just on specialty medical practices. And I think that'll be important for our conversation later today because a lot of this is customer intimacy. And I would tell you, I think customer intimacy is really one of the secrets of ModMed's success. I've been here, I guess I joined in October of this last year. So 2025, been here almost 9 months now. It's been fantastic. Previously, I spent a couple of years as the Chief Marketing Officer at Insura Health, which does electronic medical records and billing software specifically for mental health. So not at all competitive to what we're doing here at ModMed, but kind of definitely adjacent to the space. Again, working in EHR and revenue cycle management, but in a very, very different segment. I enjoyed my time immensely working in mental health. It's such an important part of the overall human health. Before that, I spent 4 years as a Chief Marketing Officer at Definitive Healthcare. That was a private equity-backed company. We marketed something called Healthcare Commercial Intelligence, basically enabling anybody who wanted to sell into the healthcare industry, whether you're selling a big MRI machine like GE or Siemens, or you were selling tongue depressors and everything in between. You wanted to sell into healthcare. We provided the information you needed to have a successful sale, contact information. We called it both context and context. That was really cool. We took that company public in September of 2021 on the NASDAQ. It still is on NASDAQ, symbol DH. That was quite a ride. I'm happy to talk a little bit about that. Before that, I spent about 4 years in product management at Aetna, then CVS, when CVS bought Aetna. And then before that, I spent about 6 years as the Chief Marketing Officer at GE Healthcare IT, which, wait for it, where we did electronic medical records, billing software, revenue cycle management for hospitals and larger primary care practices. So there's definitely a through line of like healthcare, product management, marketing running throughout my career. Been very fortunate, had a bunch of really great experiences, working with a bunch of really great companies with some really talented people.
Well, and, technology and health tech is such an emerging field here. What I'd love to do is take all of that background, and I'm going to start in a certain area because I want to get to the customer proximity, the revenue logic of customer obsession. But you told me a story when we were last meeting about what you call the brand awareness gap
Mhm.
and how much investment as a company you're making in brand awareness because you see directly as the C-suite, but all the way up through the board, how an investment in brand is a return on revenue. So if you wouldn't mind just taking us through that thinking.
Yeah, sure. So, one of the things that I got when I got to ModMed, when I got here, it was amazing. Like, well, most people had not heard of us. We are really like an industry leader. We've got, crazy good retention, super happy customers. We are innovating like nobody's business. But I did a brand awareness study early on, and we're somewhere in the high 40s of unaided awareness. And unaided awareness is just, who do you think of when you think of an EHR for dermatologists? And you see what people put in, right? We are somewhere in the low 60s for what I would call aided awareness, which is which of these five companies is a leader in EHR for dermatologists. And you list ModMed and four of our competitors, and you see who people check, right? This is a blinded survey, so I had nothing to do to influence it. We had a third party company to do complete customer research and give us the report back in a database. And there are obviously variations by different specialties. Some are in the 70s, some are in the 50s, and that's to be expected. And there's also variation by practice size, small, medium, and large, and by ownership structure. And you can slice and dice awareness from now until the end of time. But what's interesting about it was, my opinion, we did not have the level of awareness that we needed to have. But frankly, we deserve to have. We are not really doing effective thought leadership. We weren't getting out there and claiming our both technical leadership and also our innovation leadership and our, again, customer intimacy, our deep domain expertise around what we're doing. Especially, we have 25 MDs or clinical doctors on staff here who are guiding both our clinical strategy and our clinical product development. So when you buy a dermatology EHR from us, it was designed by dermatologists who have, the specialty and actually are still practicing. And that level of customer intimacy becomes a differentiator for ModMed. But when I looked at all of this, I was also asked by the board to, not surprisingly, generate more demand. I would bet every CMO or VP of demand generation who's listening to this podcast today, or frankly, probably any marketer listening to this podcast today, has had a board go, you know what? We love marketing. How much more demand can you generate, please? Immediately, right now. And I get it. That's the board's job, to push and ask for demand. But if you simply wanted to get me 1,000 leads and you didn't care what they look like, I'd put up a website that said free naked people here, and I could get you 1,000 people to click on it. It would be the 1,000 wrong people, but I could get you 1,000 people, right? The trick is to generate qualified demand, which I always measure by MQL to SQL conversion rate. And one of my cardinal rules, a marketer can never turn an MQL to an SQL. It always has to be a salesperson who evaluates it and says, yes, I'm going to turn this into an SQL and I see value in it. I'm putting it in my funnel to work. And so now I start thinking about what's my MQL to SQL. Take this back to the question you asked about 60 seconds ago. And I know we're on a little bit of a tangent, but stick with me here. How do you get more people to click on your, advertisements? How do you get more people to come and join your webinars? How do you get more people to interact with you? Differentiated brand, right? Brand is air cover. I could use the military analogy, which I won't, of, carpet bombing to soften the ground for the ground troops. It's cliche, but it kind of works. But at the end of the day, brand helps generate demand. It makes it easier to generate demand. I like to say brand is what they say about you when you're not in the room. And one of the challenges at ModMed is we're not in enough rooms. When we get in the room, we win way more than we lose. So the challenge coming to the board was, Justin, get us into more rooms. And it's not just generating demand. As I told them, I said, I need to invest in a brand campaign. And to our board's credit, they didn't put me over the ringer. They said, okay, you got the budget. You know what you need to do. We're going to expect more leads at the end of the year over year improvement. but we're going to grant trust that we hired an expert. And if you need to allocate a certain percentage of money to brand to do that, we believe in you and you can go off and do that. And my God, that's what you dream about hearing from a board, right? I mean, you just dream of that. And I tell my fellow CMOs, and they're kind of like, what? Your board did what? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, are they hiring? I'm like, sorry, John's filled. But that's really, it's an important part of it, right? You got to have brand, you got to have demand generation, and you got to have unbelievable product marketing. And it's really all three of those working together that makes an effective marketing organization. I can't talk about brand without talking about demand gen and product marketing. When I have my weekly meetings, I have a weekly all hands with the entire marketing team. There's for every Friday at 1:00, just for 30 minutes. And one of the things I always do is I walk the team through the demand generation metrics. And I tell them, I'm like, gang, yes, these are technically the demand generation metrics, but they are our scorecard. Every single person on this call is accountable for these metrics. Because yes, demand gen can have a webinar, but do they get that we have nothing good to say? That's product marketing's fault. And if we have a webinar and it looks hideous because our brand is ugly and the colors are neon yellow with, hot pink font and the message isn't clear and the graphics are ugly, people are going to disengage, right? And so I can point to every person on that call literally and tell you how their job connects with demand generation numbers. And so it's our collective marketing scorecard. That's probably more than you're looking for, Steve, but I'm passionate. I got going, so roll with me.
Well, here's what I took away from that. And I, about a year ago, multi-time CMO came on. She was all health tech too, exactly. Mm-hmm. And she said, today's brand is tomorrow's demand.
She's exactly right.
Yep. And she connected it. And the way that I'm going to kind of summarize what I think you said here is that if we're not known and we're not trusted, we're not on the day one short list. Yeah. If we're not on the day one short list, we're out, right? And, brands are trust marks. We learned that in Basics 101 and Marketing 101 school, right? So what you're saying here is I love the way you said, we just got to get into more rooms. I mean, all of us should be saying, it sounds like ModMed is excellent at it. Get us into the conversation. We're going to close our fair share. Right.
Correct.
But it's getting into that conversation. We're not going to be in the conversation if our buyers are doing all the research before they want to even talk to us. They're going to lock the day one list before they talk to us. And then when they want to talk to us, they're just validating what they've decided, what they already want. Right. So we got to fit into that equation. This is why brand impact and impact on revenue should be a board conversation in every boardroom. But unfortunately, most boards never go to the C-suite or the CMO and say, "Hey, how are our brand metrics doing these days?" Yeah. Right?
Well, to our board's credit, I actually walked them through some of the metrics I was walking you through earlier around aided awareness and unaided awareness, and we've actually got a database online. And, some other analysts went through and actually looked at the database at a more detailed level. I had a summary conversation with the partners, but I gave the board access to it. And I said, hey, look, I got this data. By the way, I did this in January of 2026. I'm redoing it in July of 2026. And I'm redoing it in January of 2027. And we're going to do a 6-month cycle. And yeah, it's a 6-figure investment, low 6 figures, but a 6-figure investment to continue to do this. But I'm going to spend 7 figures on brand advertising, and my budget is well into the 8 figures, right, for overall marketing. So what's a couple $100,000 really to measure your brand effectiveness? And the insights that you can get from it are amazing. And our board was like, yeah, well, why are we so much better with, 200 doctor practices in ophthalmology than 3 doctor practices in ophthalmology? What can you tell us about that, right? And the data forces you to ask some really interesting questions about product strategy, reference customers, where we've had wins, what our messaging is. There's all sorts of things, right? And it's not just marketing. I actually briefed our whole ELT on this brand study, and they were all in. They're like, hey, can I look at this and play around with it? Our sales leaders like, I wonder if our sales team is more effective in one channel versus the other, right? Are they being trained effectively? Maybe there's a bad trainer. So, I mean, like, there's so many different reasons and things that can happen when a well executed brand study comes back out. And it's not just marketing did a good job or marketing did a bad job. It's really, how's the business looking? And there are always opportunities to improve. This is one key metric to help you figure out where to improve.
So I got to say, I'm going to ask you three questions at once here, and then I'm going
Go
to see
for it.
what you do with it. Okay. So in our previous conversation, not only are you getting the money to do the brand awareness, but you said we had 33 different messages going on in the marketplace at the same time. So to decide to spend on brand, but then what the message, you were talking about the message there, super important, right? But there was a message that not only was designed to build trust and awareness externally, but internally too, and alignment internally.
Yep.
And well aligned teams have 2.4 times better revenue outcomes. That's a study that we can talk about. But tell me a little bit about now you got the budget for this, but you got to spend it wisely to affect external and internal audiences. How did you do that and why?
Yeah. So it was interesting. So the way that I got to 33, and that is an accurate recollection, is you can think about it as ModMed sells to small, medium, and large ambulatory practices, right? And we are in 11 different specialties, as I mentioned earlier. So 11 times 3 gives you your 33. And before I got here, ModMed marketing had really been one step short of a deli counter, right? Which is every sales team would come up to the deli counter and say, I want turkey on white, no mustard. Next guy's like, I want turkey on wheat with deli mustard, right? And every sales team was coming to marketing and asking for a specific campaign for their target audience. And lo and behold, every one of those 33 was maddeningly unique and there was no overlap between any of them. Wrong. But we were there, right? And our marketing team was so overwhelmed, believe it or not, they had implemented agile marketing and were doing PIs to organize all the work because they couldn't keep up with it. And I walked in the door and I said, guys, It's like when you spend your marketing effort and time and money across 33, you get a ton of micro messages. But what does ModMed stand for? Who's ModMed? What's the value that we bring? Why not just be 33 individual companies, right? We have one engineering team. They built one common backend platform in Amazon Cloud. They don't have 33 different backend platforms. Why do I have 33 different outbound marketing? So I looked around the business, talked with my boss, CEO, and I landed on kind of a core concept floating around somewhere, which is this concept of the AI powered practice. One of the 33 campaigns that landed on the AI powered practice. I kind of looked at it and I go, there's something here, right? Right? Is the AI powered practice the most innovative, unique idea ever come up by a marketer anywhere? Nope. Does that matter? Nope. Right? Is it good enough? Hell yes. Right? And so the AI powered practice basically starts to go, we are going to bring AI to every corner of your practice in specialty medicine. Compelling. I like it. Can everybody in the company get behind it? Yeah. So suddenly, ModMed's story becomes, we are bringing you the AI powered practice. And that became the top level message. I said, you know what? You can have your customization of the 33 at a 10% level. 90% of the marketing story is going to be around the AI powered practice. So you know what happened with that? Product management got a hold of this. And chief product officer goes, I'm going to start telling my team they need to build the AI powered practice and everything they need to do to at least to ladder up into it. All of a sudden, the next board deck, I'll open up the first summary slide, and my boss, he put together the deck is top 3 things we're doing in 2026. Number 1, build the AI powered practice.
Number 1.
Great.
I love it.
We're all on board here, right? And suddenly, everybody starts to talk about it. So then we had our user conference, and we put everything at the user conference around the AI powered practice. We then in January had our company kickoff, which historically it had its own thing, not connected to the user practice. Our company kickoff in 2026 was ModMed will deliver the AI powered practice. What's your role? Right? So everybody at the whole company kickoff was thinking about, where do I fit into the AI powered practice? I want to be part of that. And it starts to come the snowball down the hill, right? We then had our sales kickoff, through 2.5 days on how to sell the AI powered practice. And suddenly you start to see the power of all of these employees saying the same thing. It's now on our company boilerplate on our website. We created a whole section on the front page of the website, the AI powered practice. Now we're like delivering products on it, and it's kind of caught on. And now I go to our agency, I'm like, guys, as we build our next generation brand campaign, the AI powered practice needs to be a part of it. I want everybody to wake up in the morning and think of AI powered practice equals ModMed. And I think this is the classic case of a good idea with everybody behind it is better than a great, fantastic idea with a few people behind it, because it creates camaraderie, storyline, and it travels.
I cannot tell you, I have never had such a good story told about how one good idea the entire company can align by, and how and why and how it motivates that coming together, right? And I have to tell you, I was just reading the other day a study that was talking about how we've got to stop trying to create different messages for every member of the buying committee, right? Like, oh, what do we have to say to the CFO? Oh, what do we have to say to the head of the practice, right? What do we have to? And it was like, no, one message. One message. If you fragment and what you're saying to the buying group, creating trust and awareness amongst the buying group is going to be fragmented too, and nobody's going to know what to do. Yeah. So aligning around messaging, around the brand, around the customer is what I'm hearing you say. And you've talked early about, customer proximity and how important that is. And we kind of put it into the title as the revenue logic of customer obsession. What's your logic of that? Why is customer proximity or obsession so important? And by the way, 2 years ago, Forrester did a whole customer obsession study. It came out that only 3% of companies are customer obsessed. But customer obsessed companies they have 41% better revenue, 49% better profit, and 51% better retention of clients. So that's the background, but I'd love to hear your story, your version of it.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. It's a pretty basic statement. A customer obsessed company wins. Like, yeah, of course a customer obsessed company wins. Are you in business for yourself, or are you in business for your customer? Right? And so how can you learn about your customer, and how can you get close to them? So one of ModMed's home court advantages is our deep integration with the clinical world. And so ModMed was founded by two guys, Dan Kane and Dr. Michael Sherlin. And I'll give you a little bit of ModMed history because it's important to how we think about our company. So Dan, when he was in college, started a company called Blackboard, the education software company. It was one of the first college, distribution. We were replacing textbooks, get all your content online. Company was crazy successful. Took it public, then took it private. And Dan retired somewhere in his 30s and to Florida. And I tell Dan that's the only thing I've ever seen him fail at in his entire life is retirement. And so Dan was literally at the dermatologist, and Dr. Sherlin was the dermatologist. And Dan was like, man, I do not like being retired. I need to do something. I'm a builder. What am I going to do? I build things. That's what I do. And Michael's like, I hate my EHR. Do you want to build a EHR company together? And they said, sure. So the joke around ModMed is the company was literally started while Dan was in a paper gown at the doctor's office. Dan and Michael are still both here. Several transactions, private equity transactions later, both still working 60 hours a week, both still in the office, culturally driving the company. They are two of the most normal, nicest guys you will ever meet, who care about one thing and one thing only, and that is customer satisfaction and making sure our customers are happy, making sure our doctors have better clinical experiences, making sure our doctors get paid what they've earned, making sure that patients can talk to their doctors in a clean and easy way, making sure that doctors can deliver the best and most effective care. So Dan still drives a lot of our technical strategy. He built our ModMed AI Scribe platform. He's a genius coder, and we count ourselves very lucky that he still loves to do this type of stuff. Michael's not only our chief strategy officer, he's our chief clinical officer. And we have 25 practicing MDs on staff, all of whom report to Michael. So you don't have a situation here like in other companies where you have maybe one or two doctors reporting to, a product manager with an MBA. Here, we've got doctors who are, again, still in practice, reporting to a doctor driving the clinical and product strategy of the company. So literally last week, we had our customer advisory board, a lovely meeting in Boca Raton in June where the temperature was a cool 98 degrees with 98% humidity. Not recommending Boca in June, by the way, as a travel destination. But we had 85 doctors fly in, take time out of their practices to sit with us. And we had some product roadmap updates, but the real core of the advisory board was our clinical doctors broke into small groups by specialty with doctors who were their specialty. And they had what feature do you want us to build next conversation? What is this feature working? When you're on the iPad and you're rating a thing about the eye, is it actually correct? How can we make it better? I sat in on some of these, and I'll be honest, I understood a good 50% of what the heck they were talking about because they were clinical to clinical conversations. I don't need to understand the other 50% because I'm in marketing, right? It's not my job to do that. It's my job to make sure that, our doctors are having these great conversations that building it, and I trust them, and they were amazing. But that's customer obsession, right? Where you're not kind of just doing it. The customers get back together at our user conference in the fall, right? So, it's twice a year. We have detailed clinical working sessions with our customers. We also have detailed working sessions with the practice managers and the owners around the revenue cycle and the billing collections piece of it. All of that deep learning and deep partnership makes its way back into the product. And then, when we are doing our beta programs, we have Slack channels set up with our customers. We have lots of engagement where it's a constant dialogue guiding our strategy. And look, even for me in marketing, I'll give you a great example of how having these clinical positions on board. We're putting together a new advertising campaign. I didn't have to go out and do a focus group. I took 25 doctors who were on staff. I bought them all lunch in the company cafeteria and said, hey, here's a new advertising campaign. What do you think? I got great feedback from them. It would have cost me thousands of dollars to go off and get that feedback someplace else. They're pretty direct too.
Yeah.
You will offend a doctor if you say this, Justin. Great. Glad you told me now. X that. Right? How valuable is that to get that feedback? And it cost me absolutely nothing. So I think that secret sauce, kind of the founders, plus the culture, plus the deep clinical partnership, really helps create a customer-obsessed culture at ModMed, and it's why I think we've been very successful as a company.
Well, I have to tell you, a lot of companies, and I talk to a lot of CMOs and CROs and CEOs, they feel that their commercial go-to-market strategy naturally produces customer insights because we're talking to buyers every day. We've got customer success talking to customers every day. The thing is that I've collected from all these conversations is that sales conversations today are very late stage.
Yes.
They're waiting longer and longer, which means, and I think I said it earlier, that the conversation is about validation of what they've already decided to do, right? It's not about those early stage conversations about what are the real problems and are they the real priorities and when and how much effort should we be placing to fix these. And those are the conversations where we learn a tremendous amount, right? Customer success, even one of the greatest KPIs out of customer success is cross sell and upsell. They are a sales organization, right? And so what I'm hearing is customer obsession isn't let's leave our regular go to market strategies and practices to understand the customer. It has to be at the DNA of our business, it has to be part of our culture. We have to be proactive about how and creative about how we are constantly placing ourselves in close proximity to the customers and asking the right questions at the right time.
And it's also in our case having the customer on staff, right? Like
Yes.
we have
Yes.
practicing dermatologists, we have practicing orthopedic doctors, we have practicing ENTs who are using our software, and then they can have a conversation with their peers that I frankly cannot have. I
Yeah.
cannot do it. Our head of product management is a lifelong enterprise software guy. He is amazing. He does not have an MD,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
If he worked
Right.
at Thomson Reuters for like 10, 12 years, great place to build your product management. I trust him to build enterprise software all day long. But he's like, Justin, I can't talk to, an ENT about like what's going on in the inner ear. He goes, I don't know, right? But we have an ENT on staff who can, and then can come back and translate that into product requirements. And so that becomes a differentiator in the product. And these doctors are endemic to the culture of ModMed. Like they're all over the place. They're just like regular people talking about stuff, but they've got a great concept of stuff. We bring them to user conferences. So we went to HIMSS earlier this year, the largest healthcare technology show in the country. It's always in Vegas or Chicago or Orlando. It's the only three places you can have it, right? It's like 30,000 of my closest friends in healthcare IT. We bring our doctors to the shows to do demos there. We don't have product managers do the demos. The doctors do the demos. And they're doing live demos on like the iPad about the software. And you'd be amazed when doctors see other doctors doing demos, they stop at our booth because they also know that a doctor's not going to try to sell them. Right? If they ask them clinician to clinician, does the software do this? Our doctor's like, nope. And it should, but it doesn't. Right? They're not going to do any like try to sell you around it type stuff. And what that does for our credibility in terms of, your say-do ratio and who we are, it really helps our brand, there's that word again, be more trusted because of who's guiding our strategy.
So I have to ask you, we've covered so much territory here. If there was one thing that you wanted the CEOs, CMOs, CROs, VP marketing, VP head of sales that are going to be consuming this podcast, the one thing that you wanted them to take away, what would that one thing be?
I would say the best marketers listen, period. That's the one thing you should take away. And it's ironic to say that, right? Because a marketer, we should be talking all the time, selling people on the value of what we are. Clearly, I'm a talker, right? But the best marketers listen, and they listen closely. Now, you don't have to follow all the advice. And in fact, the best marketers don't follow all the advice. The best marketers are really good at synthesis and pattern recognition and extracting the signal from the noise, and then creating a firm differentiated position. I always say the worst piece of marketing is not something that you hate. It's something you don't care about. It's inoffensive. It's bland. Marketing is about creating an emotional connection. If I create an ad and you hate it, we got an emotional connection. I did something to you. If you look at it, yeah, that's fine. You forget about it, right? And if you look at it, and I would ask you, pick 3 campaigns you hated. You could do that like that. Pick 3 campaigns you loved. You do like that. Pick 3 campaigns you didn't care about. You'd have to struggle because you don't remember them, right? And so the best marketers listen a lot to their peers, to the market, to the folks on the ELT who have other different things going on, to the folks in the up and down the organization, from the day one customer service rep, up in my case, to the clinical doctor who's been here since day one of ModMed, right? You're listening to all those different types of people, and you're figuring out what are the common threads of the story, and then you're telling that story in a compelling manner. That's what I want people to walk away with about the role of marketing.
Well, I got to tell you, I feel like we started a series here. I need to have you back. This has been so wonderful. The goal of the podcast is to bring different perspectives, different insights from different industries, but we're all doing one thing. We're all in a B2B company in an ABM go-to-market motion, and we're trying to make sense of an environment where playbooks are being ripped up and AI is coming in and changing everything, even our business models. And so I just wanted to say that you have been an amazing part of those insights and those perspectives, and that's the rising tide that lifts all boats. And thank you. Thank you for coming on, Justin.
My pleasure. In case you can't tell, I really love what I do.
I can see it. I can.